body already knows. Right now, right where you are in this very moment, your body knows there's an intelligent field of sensing and patterning. There's a mostly more than conscious material ongoingness for which deep evolutionary time lives in every cell and in every subcellular entity right now. You're processing in this moment light and sound, memory and chemistry. You're regulating, adapting, signaling, integrating across trillions of simultaneous transactions. Without a single conscious instruction from the little cognitive you take yourself to be. You didn't tell your fascia how to respond to the morning. You didn't instruct your immune system or your gut or the biophotonic field humming through your cells. And yet here you are, alive, perceiving, breathing, present. That's not background noise. It's not machinic. It's not pre-programmed and rigidly predictable. It's alive, adaptive, ongoing, symphonic even, a whole teeming world of worlds, an entire galaxy of more than human intelligence. That is deep intelligence, vast, embodied, more than cognitive intelligence. It's been operating since long before the word mind ever first existed. This channel is built on one conviction, that intelligence lives here, in the body, in the very materiality the body is also an expression of, in matter, in the living world we're part of, and that everything changes when we start taking that seriously and really grasping its profound implications. And here's what I find endlessly fascinating. Whether you arrive at that insight through chronic illness or spiritual emergence, or even through trying to understand why you can't think straight under pressure, you arrive at the same place if you're open to the vital intelligence of your own fleshy being. The same body, the same intelligence, the same invitation. That's what this channel is about. Some of you are here because you're exhausted in a way that rest just doesn't fix, right? Maybe it has a name. Maybe it's ME, CFS, long COVID, burnout, or maybe it doesn't have a name yet. Maybe it's just that nameless sense that something's off, that you're truly drained in ways you can't quite address yet. Maybe you've been through every reasonable explanation. None of them quite capture what's happening. There's something about it that maybe just feels relentless, something that feels like maybe less like illness and more like a kind of demand and strange, ill-fitting relentlessness, like the body's insisting on something it can't articulate for you in words. But what if that's not a malfunction? What if the body's expressing itself as a highly sophisticated form of intelligence? What if you can learn to listen really well? Some of you are here because something cracked open in you, spiritually, existentially, and it's simultaneously the most profound and most destabilizing thing that's ever happened to you. Maybe you've had experiences that don't fit standard categories. You might have found a tradition maybe that helps, or a teacher or a framework, but maybe something still isn't landing for you. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's because maybe what's happening just isn't in your mind or your spirit imagined as somehow disembodied or less than fully material. But you might notice how that destabilization or sense of something shifting is actually in your nervous system or in your fascia. It might even feel, cellular. And if that's you and you notice that, then you're in the right place here, because as my own journey and that of thousands of others assures us, awakening is not a disembodied event. It happens in flesh and bone and tissue, and your physical body needs support in that process that many teachers simply don't offer. And some of you here because you're trying to think seriously and rigorously. The time's corporate, after all. There's so much manipulation and opinion and hypnotic political posturing, right? And we're all under pressure. And something can get in the way of our thinking so often when we are. But so many of us are right. We know we're capable, but the brain sometimes won't cooperate when we need it to at times. So what if you're someone in need of some seasoned support with all of that? What if you're someone who sits down to read a dense text and you just kind of slide off it, or you have to write something important and the words won't come, or you know the argument you want to make, but you just can't seem to get to it, or maybe you want to argue better and you're not sure how. Perhaps nobody's told you that this is not a discipline problem. The sense of being blocked by pressure is a body problem. Your cognitive capacity lives in your physiology. And until you know how to work with that physiology, all the intellectual effort in the world can be swimming against the current. And then there's the need to support bodily well-being by being more capable in our thinking, being more critically aware, being able to self-protect through discernment and intelligence, and to understand better what we read, and to understand better and discern and be critical about what we're exposed to. There's something urgent about the development of critical thinking and about the development of a deeply thought through ethics based on rigorous inquiry in these urgent times. And learning to learn well is a master life skill. Now, I've spent years working with people at the edge of what they feel their body can hold, people in the depths of ghastly fatigue conditions, people navigating Kundalini awakening, spiritual emergence, the disorientation states and experiences for which they have no map, or people trying to function intellectually under conditions of overwhelm or depletion. See, before I did all this, I was a professional law professor, spending years thinking hard as a researcher about how minds engage with complexity, how arguments are built and dismantled, how a person learns to think under pressure. I spent a lot of time thinking about disembodiment and the violence it is historically enacted. And I spent a lot of time thinking about embodiment and the role of materiality and the importance of an ethics attentive to what's actually here, to the distributed intelligence of bodies, including cellular bodies, all the way up to the planetary. And here's what I came to understand about human body beings. None of this was ever separate. It was always the same entangled challenge. When I work with someone in chronic fatigue, we're not just managing a condition, we're learning to read the body's signals as intelligence rather than noise. We're retraining capacity for fully embodied somatic learning and as a fully embodied, somatically intelligent being. When I work with someone in Kundalini process, we're doing something structurally identical. The non-ordinary experiences, the energy movements, the dissolution of our old identity structures, they're not pathology. They are the human body being reorganizing itself at a fundamental level. And the work's the same. Learn to listen. Learn to distinguish signal from noise. To learn to stop fighting. To start partnering. And when I taught law students at all levels how to read dense legal text without their brain shutting down, we were doing the same kind of thing again, because the first thing you have to do before you can engage in any complex material is to come into a bodily state of genuine receptive attention, which turns out to be a somatic skill, not a cognitive one. Fatigue, awakening, learning. 3 invitations into the same underlying inquiry. What could it mean to work with the profound and distributed intelligence of material embodiment rather than against it? The human body is not a vehicle for a mind that floats somewhere above it. The body's not a symptom factory to be managed. The body's not something to be connected to the mind by a hyphen, as if it was ever separate in the first place. The body's not an obstacle to spiritual realization. The body's certainly not an obstacle to rigorous thinking. The body is where intelligence actually lives. All of it. The healing intelligence, the awakening intelligence, the reasoning intelligence, all are dimensions of an incredible, complex, entangled, lively assemblage, a symphony of convergence and ongoingness. You, actually, in all your miraculous multiplicity, you are so much more than perhaps you realized to this point. I want to be honest about who this channel is for. It's not for everyone, and that's not a gatekeeping exercise, by the way. I just don't want to waste your time if it's not for you personally. After all, there's loads of content in the healing and spiritual space that offers reassurance first and ask questions second. And that works for some people, and I'm not here to criticize it. It can be really valuable, but it's not what I do. What I do invites a willingness to embrace and hold complexity. I truly believe, actually, this is what our age, this inflection point for humanity, requires of us now. And not everyone will want to do it, of course, and that's okay. But for those who do, I'm here on that path with you. And if you've ever felt that the standard scientific approach, or the old views of materialism, or the body escaping transcendence offered by so many spiritual accounts are telling you something real, but they're also not quite sufficient, then you are in the right place. If you've ever been in a healing context that felt too simplistic, too one-size-fits-all, too willing to bypass the difficult questions and too willing to overlook a much more complex, less linear, and sometimes more intransigent reality, you're in the right place. And if you've ever been in an academic or professional context that felt too disembodied, too head-focused, too pressurized, and too willing to overlook your physical well-being and the ways in which embodied well-being liberates your deeper capacities, you are also in the right place. If you're the kind of person who reads a book on quantum biology and a book on mysticism in the same week and keeps noticing that they're exploring the same questions from different angles, you are very much in the right place. This channel exists because I believe that intellectual rigor and somatic depth are not opposites. I believe that the most honest account of how healing works requires both neuroscience and other similarly sophisticated ways of looking into the depths of what's here and depth of practice, including the willingness to be absolutely humble in the face of complexities. I believe that learning to think well and learning to feel well are at a certain depth the same practice of evolving, expressed through different but entangled capacities. So what's actually here? There are conversations with some of the most interesting people I know, researchers, practitioners, healers, thinkers, about fatigue, about embodiment, about the more than human, about relationalities all the way up and down, relationalities with plants and fascia and water, microbiome, immune system, and more. The whole question of what it means to be an earthling self on a planet full of more than human life and agency. There are guided practices, hypnotic journeys, meditations, immersive experiences that work indirectly with the body's own distributed more than conscious intelligence. There's rigorous practical material on how to get your brain into states where genuine learning becomes possible, how to engage complex arguments and texts, how to think under pressure, and more, much more. And right through it all, running through it all, is a framing, one that I've been developing across more than 3 decades of practice, scholarship, and longer in my own embodied life journey. And this frame is what I call body as guru. Body as guru is not a metaphor, it's a material invitation into a profoundly wise capacity for your own distributed agency, a journey into the complexity and wonder of who you are in all ways and levels. And that frame shows up everywhere here. And you don't need to understand it before you begin. The journey's the point, perhaps. So I want to end with something I mean very simply. The culture we live in, particularly in the West, has a deep investment in the idea that the body is some kind of problem or just some wet machine, kind of lump of meat that the mind drives around or the spirit inhabits for a while before it flits off somewhere else. We live in a culture that sees fatigue as weakness. We live in a culture that suggests that spiritual experience is either superstition or pathology, or that spirituality is really about manifesting what you want or escaping from what actually is. Our culture seems addicted to the idea, additionally, that rigorous thinking happens from the neck up, when in reality, intelligence is far more distributed and profoundly and inescapably embodied. And the evidence for that cascade of intelligences at work in embodied life and in the world more generally is far from being anecdotal. It's in neuroscience, immunology, quantum biology. It's in the contemplative traditions and in the living testimonies of thousands and thousands of people who found that when they stopped fighting their own materiality and started listening to it and learning from it, Something fundamental shifted forever. The body already knows. So what's being asked of us is not more effort. It's a different quality of attention. It's a kind of attunement, a willingness to treat the signals the body sends, the fatigue, the activation, the experiences that don't fit standard maps, to treat those as meaningful, as intelligent, as worthy of our most careful, rigorous, open-hearted engagement. You're so very welcome here. Look around. There's a lot to explore. Start wherever you're drawn. See if this space, after all, is for you. And if something shifts for you, I would genuinely love to hear about it.